Well, I went over during Desert Shield, and we had just published this cover piece on the 25th anniversary of the Ia Drang, couple of months, not even a couple, month and a half before. And it rang so many bells that my boss said, well, go over. The battalion is over there now. Go over and do a piece on what the differences are between the soldiers of 1965 First Cav and the soldiers of 1990 First Cav. And I went over for a couple of weeks, went out in the desert on maneuvers with the 7th Cav, flew straight back to Fort Hood where their families were, and went into the schools and talked to the kids, talked to the wives, and put out a Christmas Eve cover on the magazine with the battalion commander of the 7th Cav on the cover. And stirred them up good. It was excellent work. In January, the boss said, well, it's up to you. Do you want to go back? And I said, I do. I should. And so I got on what they called the Bigfoot pool plane, which before they started the air war, they flew a bunch of us out of Andrews Air Base to Germany and then to Saudi Arabia. And I was covering, in Riyadh, I was covering Schwarzkopf's headquarters. And besides my passing acquaintance with him in the Vietnam War, my co-author, General Moore, was his TAC officer, his infantry TAC officer when he was a cadet at West Point. And so I'd been in Riyadh a few days, and I'd been asking for different things I wanted to do, and they were laughing and just throw them in a drawer, and, you know, you get nothing. They were really being assholes. And when we'd been up all night with Scud attacks, and I finally laid down about 8 o'clock in the morning, get a little sleep, and the phone started ringing. And for every one of those requests I put in, there was a different guy at the PAO shop saying, oh, about that request to go out with the, you know, the Scud hunters, we'll be getting back to you on that right away. And then the phone would ring, and it was a different PAO guy saying, well, about your request to fly a mission with the B-52s, we'll be calling you very soon about that. And they went through the whole list, and I said, something is up. And the last call was from a Navy captain who ran the PAO shop. He said, how come you didn't tell me you know General Schwarzkopf? And I said, well, I know a lot of generals. I don't talk about it. Well, he wants to see you at 11 o'clock. Be downstairs at 10:30, and I'll walk you over. So he walks me over, and I go into Schwarzkopf's office. First thing he does is throw the Navy captain out and everybody else and lock the door and take the cover off his battle map, his plans. And we sat down and talked for about 45 minutes about the upcoming invasion, and then we talked for 2 hours about Vietnam. He said, well, I know you want to go with the first Cav, but they're going to be in reserve, and the war may be over before they get in it. So I'm going to send you to the division commander I have out here, who is most like Hal Moore and has the most dangerous and challenging mission in my battle plan. And I said, damn, Norm, I thought we were friends. And he said, well, I'm sending you to the 24th Infantry Division Mechanized and Major General Barry McCaffrey. And I went down to McCaffrey on the eve of the invasion, well, about 10 days before the invasion. And I had a letter in the back pocket saying, anything this guy wants, give it to him. So I was outside the pool system, and I rode to war in General McCaffrey's back pocket, rode in his helicopter, rode in his armored personnel carrier, and had an incredible view of the war. And I had a way of filing my stories without going through the pool system, most importantly. They were the left hook. We went through 250 miles of the western Iraq desert and came out on Route 8. And we were sacking all of these Republican Guard divisions that were here. We were going to cut them off and crush them. McCaffrey had 30 battalions of MLRS and 155 millimeter howitzers that he dragged behind him all the way across that desert. And I think 30,000 men in the division, the heaviest division we have ever put in the field. And we were stopped at the gates of Basra, Iraq, and about 90 minutes away from going right in and cutting off the retreat of the Republican Guard divisions when they called a ceasefire. And I was sleeping under McCaffrey's helicopter, and he came around and kicked me and said, "Get up, Joe, it's all over." And I said, "What? You mean we have drug all this stuff across the desert and you ain't going to be able to use it?" And he said, "That's about it." He said, "They told me I couldn't go, but they didn't tell me I couldn't shoot, so we're going to limber up all that artillery and just squirt it out there." And he did, but he was cussing because he was 5 kilometers short of the Rumaila oil fields. He wanted to blow it all up, and he couldn't reach it. I later got enough good intel to know that the war plan was laid out for 144 hours, and we shut it off at 100 hours, and that was too soon. I mean, nobody in his right mind wanted to go to Baghdad, but if we could take out those Republican Guard divisions one way or the other, it would be to the good of the Iraqi people, or so we thought. And we didn't have the chance. And, 2 weeks later, Saddam's troops are hanging Shiites from the tank gun barrels by the dozen. So, pretty bad deal. Pretty bad end to a good war. But as someone told me on that day, any end of a war is a good end. And you can't argue with that.